Welcome there everyone. Today I'll be benchmarking this game. I'm gonna put the title like when you can read it, and I thought that I'll do something different for today where I will be only testing it at the highest setting with 1080p, 1440p and the 2160, which is pretty much HD, 2K and 4K. For the specifications, as always, I'll be using a Ryzen 5 2600X, 16 gigabytes of DDR4 clocked to 3000 MHz and a GTX 1080 with this overclock. And of course, to achieve those resolutions, I used NVIDIA's DSR at 1.78%, 78 times, 4 times, and yeah, back to you. First things first, when it comes to this, I turned off motion blur because that shit is disgusting. Second thing, global illumination. I repeat, do not use this SSGI because it's a great bottle. It destroys your performance, so I disabled it completely, and I chose all of the highest settings possible, and I've chosen this alley. Pretty much it's in the beginning of the game, so I wouldn't spoil anything. This is like my control alley, I guess. So I'm gonna walk and you're gonna be noticing me bobbling my head left to right. That's me just forcing the 1% load to go lower to see the worst case scenario when you're in combat or something like that. So yeah, enjoy.
Hey, we got places to be, kid.
Yeah.
So yeah, this game is pretty. So when it comes to first person on like story mode game, I will like play it at. I'll cap the FPS at like 75 frames because that's pretty decent for me. But and also I'll put everything on maximum settings because I play single player games for the story and for the graphics, so I need it to be at least enjoyable. So yeah, so for the performance it's pretty decent if I say so myself. As you can see, 56 frames was a 1% low and an average of 111. I might even cap the game at like 100 frames just to make sure that things are buttery smooth, because even no matter how many frames you want more frames when you're playing competitive online. When it comes to single player, just enjoy a capped frame rate like 80 or 90 if you got something like mine. And yeah, even you can play 1440p comfortably, but 4K not very much. So now I'm gonna switch to 1440p at same settings. So switching to 1440p, we're still seeing 70 frames, which is pretty reasonable, pretty decent. But the 1% low is kind of jiggly. As long as it's not under 30 frames per second, you'll still be doing just fine. As you can see, we're even hitting 80 frames per second when I'm not jittering my head. So if I'm like walking around, I won't notice it. But that's what it becomes very noticeable when it comes to combat. So yeah, that's what you're gonna have to worry about: frame rate stability. So just walking around, it's pretty good, it's pretty decent. So I'm gonna take my way back. This is, as I said before, this is my control alley. This way I don't have that many of variables in the benchmark. And of course, bobbling my head to make sure that my frame rate is stable and consistent. And yeah, still. So 44 frames as 1% low and an average of 75, which is a pretty decent figures if I say so myself. So now I'm gonna switch to 4K. I wouldn't recommend you play 4K with a GTX 1080, but because I just want to test the worst case scenario, so switching straight to 4K. Yes. So switching to 4K, now the figures are pretty harder to read. And now I'm dipping into the realm of 30 frames per second. So I'm still hitting over 30%, but that 1% low is pretty horrendous. I can notice the difference between 60 and 30. Like it's noticeable if you play with high frame rates. I would not play this game at this kind of FPS. No, not recommended. So you get like, so yeah, it's pretty terrible. Look at this, horrendous, disgusting. Ugh. Oh my god. So I'm gonna make my way back. Eesh. I feel the difference between 30 frames and 60 frames, man. Like, wow. What a jittery mess. And the 1% low have stabilized, but it's terrible, but stable is still terrible. My CPU usage did drop down, I guess. But my GPU is still the same. Wait, is my overclock applying? It is applying, but it's not boosting that much. So yeah, this was pretty much it for this video. I thought because this game doesn't have that many doesn't have any presets, so I couldn't like configure a jig something like that. But yeah, as you can see, it's pretty playable at 1440p and 1080p, but not very much when it comes to 4K. So like, share, and subscribe, and bye bye.